to me to possess the average of good looks. But there was an expression in her face that pleased me more than did the faces of the young Gy ei generally, because it looked less bold, less conscious of female rights. I observed that, while she talked to Bra, she glanced from time to time sidelong at my young friend. "Courage," said I. "That young Gy loves you." "Ay, but if she shall not say so, how am I the better for her love?" "Your mother is aware of your attachment?" "Perhaps so. I never owned it to her. It would be unonly to confide such weakness to a mother. I have told my father. He may have told it again to his wife." "Will you permit me to quit you for a moment and glide behind your mother and your beloved? I am sure they are talking about you. Do not hesitate. I promise that I will not allow myself to be questioned till I rejoin you." The young An pressed his hand on his heart, touched me lightly on the head, and allowed me to quit his side. I stole unobserved behind his mother and his beloved. I overheard their talk. Bra was speaking. Said she, "There can be no doubt of this. Either my son, who is of marriageable age, will be decoyed into marriage with one of his many suitors, or he will join those who emigrate to a distance and we shall see him no more. If you really care for him, my dear Lo, you should propose." "I do care for him, Bra, but I doubt if I could really ever win his affections. He is fond of his inventions and timepieces, and I am not like Z, but so dull that I fear I could not enter into his favourite pursuits, and then he would get tired of me, and at the end of 3 years divorce me, and I could never marry another, never." It is not necessary to know about timepieces to know how to be so necessary to the happiness of an An who cares for timepieces, that he would rather give up the timepieces than divorce his Gy. You see, my dear Lo, continued Bra, that precisely because we are the stronger sex, we rule the other provided we never show our strength. If you were superior to my son in making timepieces and automata, you should, as his wife, always let him suppose you thought him superior in that art to yourself. The An tacitly allows the preeminence of the Gy in all except his own special pursuit. But if she either excels him in that, or affects not to admire him for his proficiency in it, he will not love her very long. Perhaps he may even divorce her. But where a Gy really loves, she soon learns to love all that the An does. The young Gy made no answer to this address. She looked down musingly, then a smile crept over her lips, and she rose, still silent, and went through the crowd till she paused by the young An who loved her. I followed her steps, but discreetly stood at a little distance while I watched them. Somewhat to my surprise, till I recollected the coy tactics among the Ana, the lover seemed to receive her advances with an air of indifference. He even moved away, but she pursued his steps, and, a little time after, both spread their wings and vanished amid the luminous space above. Just then I was accosted by the chief magistrate, who mingled with the crowd distinguished by no signs of deference or homage. It so happened that I had not seen this great dignitary since the day I had entered his dominions, and recalling Aph Lin's words as to his terrible doubt whether or not I should be dissected, a shudder crept over me at the sight of his tranquil countenance. "I hear much of you, stranger, from my son Taee," said the Tur, laying his hand politely on my bended head. "He is very fond of your society, and I trust you are not displeased with the customs of our people." I muttered some unintelligible answer, which I intended to be an assurance of my gratitude for the kindness I had received from the Tur, and my admiration of his countrymen, but the dissecting knife gleamed before my mind's eye and choked my utterance. A softer voice said, "My brother's friend must be dear to me," and looking up I saw a young Gy, who might be 16 years old, standing beside the magistrate and gazing at me with a very benignant countenance. She had not come to her full growth, and was scarcely taller than myself, namely, about 5 feet 10 inches, and thanks to that comparatively diminutive stature, I thought her the loveliest Gy I had hitherto seen. I suppose something in my eyes revealed that impression, for her countenance grew yet more benignant. "Taee tells me," she said, "that you have not yet learnt to accustom yourself to wings. That grieves me, for I should have liked to fly with you." "Alas," I replied, "I can never hope to enjoy that happiness. I am assured by Z that the safe use of wings is a hereditary gift, and it would take generations before one of my race could poise himself in the air like a bird." "Let not that thought vex you too much," replied this amiable Princess, "for after all there must come a day when Z and myself must resign our wings for ever. Perhaps when that day comes we might be glad if the An we chose was also without wings." The Tur left us, and was lost among the crowd. I began to feel at ease with Taee's charming sister, and rather startled her by the boldness of my compliment in replying that no An she could choose would ever use his wings to fly away from her. It is so against custom for an An to say such civil things to a Gy till she has declared her passion for him and been accepted as his betrothed, that the young maiden stood quite dumbfounded for a few moments. Nevertheless, she did not seem displeased. At last recovering herself, she invited me to accompany her into one of the less crowded rooms and listen to the songs of the birds. I followed her steps as she glided before me, and she led me into a chamber almost deserted. A fountain of naphtha was playing in the centre of the room. Round it were ranged soft divans, and the walls of the room were open on one side to an aviary in which the birds were chanting their artful chorus. The Gy seated herself on one of the divans, and I placed myself at her side. "Taee tells me," she said, "that Aph Lin has made it the law" Note: literally, has said, in this house be it requested. Words synonymous with law, as implying forcible obligation, are avoided by this singular people. Even had it been decreed by the Tur that his college of sages should dissect me, the decree would have ran blandly thus: "Be it requested that for the good of the community the carnivorous Tish be requested to submit himself to dissection." That Aph Lin has made it the law of his house that you are not to be questioned as to the country you come from, or the reason why you visit us. Is it so? It is. May I at least, without sinning against that law, ask at least if the Gy ei in your country are of the same pale colour as yourself, and no taller? I do not think, O beautiful Gy, that I infringe the law of Aph Lin, which is more binding on myself than anyone, if I answer questions so innocent. The Gy ei in my country are much fairer of hue than I am, and their average height is at least a head shorter than mine. They cannot then be so strong as the Ana amongst you? But I suppose their superior vril force makes up for such extraordinary disadvantage of size. They do not profess the vril force as you know it, but still they are very powerful in my country, and an An has small chance of a happy life if he be not more or less governed by his Gy. "You speak feelingly," said Taee's sister, in a tone of voice half sad, half petulant.